Ken, are you
Good
sorted?
morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this program. Tonight, we'd like to discuss the issue of this Constitution Amendment Bill number 3. Mnangagwa signed it into law. I think many people agree that this is uh, a law that is going to be obnoxious, to say the very least. The question then is, what can we do about it? And that's what we would like to discuss this afternoon. I'd like to welcome Brett, Vet, and Divine Mafa and Ben. Can we start with you, Mafa? What do you think? What can we do about this Constitution Amendment Bill number 3?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and
Thank,
clear.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brett Mvetti, my best friend, has been a member of ZEM for a very long time. Thank you, Wilbert. Thank you, everyone, and all the Zimbabweans listening out there. The Constitutional Bill number 3 is a big error. I've started to think deeply myself why it is there in the first place. And if you look at the people who are at the top vying position for becoming president, be it Chiwenga, be it Chamisa, be it Morgan Komichi, be it Douglas Monjora, be any one of these people I could mention names on, they were all participants of a coup in 2017. Now, even if we all agree that they are that Mugabe was supposed to go, the method of which he went just about 6 months before an election was held makes that, people in Zimbabwe, they say, you carry a log. We were just close to an election and we were carrying this big weight on us. It became heavy and people decided to breathe. But the breathing mechanism violated the constitution. Now, I have been a bragger for some things that I've not been able to do. Okay, like I'm definitely a karate person, but Munangagwa cannot brag. And I do not believe he was clearly responsible for the coup in 2017. He was running away. Yes, I'm coming. I'm looking for my ID. He was running away from Zimbabwe, and I do not believe he was part and parcel of the coup. That's the first thesis of my thought process. So, all right, I'm just gonna use my passport. So the thesis that I have is I don't believe Mnangagwa was part and parcel of the coup. So because of that, I still believe that he is looking at himself as an intelligence officer who is there to protect the constitution of Zimbabwe. And he has always said he is soft as wool. He is a person who believes that the constitution must be kept. But then, is he going to use other draconian means to subvert the constitution to prevent people who he believes were unconstitutional and don't deserve to be presidents, no matter what? Even though he cannot clearly say it because they gave him an award and made him a beneficiary of the coup. And of course, why would he refuse in the first place? Who would? Because he felt he was entitled. He had been kicked off. And obviously, he's going to brag and say, well, they kicked me off. Mugabe was destroying the party. I'm coming to rule my people. Anyone can do banter. But he's an old man. He has no capacity to do a coup. He was not able to do a coup. He was running away. And many people have attributed him to have been a planner. Mnangagwa clearly has no capacity to plan. Mnangagwa has no ability to organize and execute. Mnangagwa is a person who read a script designed by people who show him the way, people who advise him, and then they tell him what to say. Step of the way, even the statement he wrote, I don't believe he wrote it. Because I've never seen anywhere where Mnangagwa has written even a 300-word essay or even any of his legal paperwork when he was a lawyer. Have you ever seen where Mnangagwa wrote anything? So for that reason, He went to school in prison, and he never had formal education. And I still take him to that. That he stayed 10 years, he was a quiet guy. He became an intimidating person who can be feared by simply being quiet without having been known to be a violent person, except that even the violence that he dispenses, somebody is actually turning to. So I'm not trying to excuse this guy, but what I'm trying to explain is that he is blocking certain specific people using Cap 3 from attaining the presidency because he truly is a guy who thinks that he must be upholding the constitution. So how do you then stop, which is where you come back to? How are you going to stop this Cap 3? Because you are now a constitutional violation done by several members of our people, our party, our our opposition leaders. How then are you going to stop somebody who's now using a constitutional violation to stop people who also violated the constitution? We have had my brother, we started a united opposition with my brother Komich. Um, he was always talking about unity, people must unite. Me and Mike Wanze, we said, let's get this thing into action. We call Komich. And we had rules. Don't include the military. Don't include the military in this. Don't put Chiwenga in this because Agambo Zita, he did this before. Uh,
Okay, sorry, Martha, can I
unfortunately,
interrupt you there? I
right.
think you're taking a much broader view of the whole
Well, no,
issue.
I'm now coming back to the solution now. Just give me
Okay,
1 minute, I promise you. So we said, don't bring Chiwenga because if you bring Chiwenga in this, in terms of fighting Cap 3, he's going to just lie to you. He's just going to just ignore you. He's just going to take power. He is just the one who wants power because he don't, for once, think he doesn't want power. So we put it in writing. But Ndakazomuka Makuseni, when I woke up, they decided to take the organization and rename it or keep the name but kick me out. And we were planning to have done my demonstrations, which are important because I believe Mnangagwa can break on demonstration because Munano teaser. He's already demonstrated. Because if you ask me, would I have ran out just because I got fired? I would have never ran out. I would have had my security. I would have been waiting for Mugabe to do whatever he want or Grace whatever. But Mnangagwa runs. So I've already seen what he does. He is a runner. Achkisi, but iwo vanotochka. Then the next thing is, what do we need to do? That is your question. We need mass action, but how can we do? How can we do mass action with people who are working with military members, people in the army who are not supposed to be part and parcel of the movement? Because once you put the army in it, it's now considered a coup. You see, once there's the army, it's a coup. So the solution is mass action. People must go into the streets. And when they go, they don't leave. They sacrifice themselves right to the end. They fight. And they fight until um, there is either negotiated settlement, which of course you really cannot negotiate with terrorist criminals. You don't negotiate with people who violate the constitution. And another thing is people who violated the constitution by coup, they need to be arrested, all of them. They need to be retried. The judges who cheated their way to make sure that it wasn't considered a coup, all of them must be arrested. And it starts with our leaders in the opposition to admit that the coup was wrong. But most Zimbabweans haven't admitted that. They still think Mugabe had to go. But Mugabe can't go illegally because we had a brand new constitution in 2013. You should have gotten rid
okay.
of them before
Sorry,
you
Martha.
established the new constitution.
Martha,
Thank you.
I have to interrupt you there.
No,
I
go
would like
ahead.
to give the chance to other people to have their opening remarks. Can we follow up with you, Brett? Brett, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Koma Mafa. Thank you for that explanation. We appreciate it. And Thank you again for hosting us and giving us the opportunity to speak. Look, I'll try and be very quick. The CAB 3 is an internal ZANU-PF argument. It's not a people's. They didn't ask us. I think when we try to solve a problem, we need to understand what the problem is in order to solve it. We have we have a mafia government that is in charge of our country that wants to extend one faction's term over the other faction. They don't want the one faction to take over as per the original agreement. They would prefer the faction that is there now to continue. So once we realize that this is an internal ZANU-PF issue, we can realize that it's got nothing to do with us. We are not consulted. All the stuff with the public hearings, even if there is for by some miracle a referendum or whatever the case is, that's window dressing for results that are already known. So we must just keep that in mind. Number two, the only way to make this problem go away is to revolt against the government via a government in exile where we push for a people's revolution. Anything else short of that is kutamsangua. It's a waste of time. We have been proven over and over again, court applications, waiting for elections, going to SADC, going to the African Union, asking South Africa if they can help us. All of that has been done, dusted, and failed. So we need, again, to understand what the problem is before we come with solutions. There is a military wing in charge of Zimbabwe, people with guns. If you do anything to want to remove them, they will simply make you disappear. A gentleman was holding up a poster to say no to CAB 3. We haven't heard of him for the last 4 or 5 days. He's disappeared. This is what happens when you want to do a demonstration, you want to take people to court, you want to do all of those things. That's never going to work for a regime, ever. You need a government in exile, and you take the fight from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brett, and thanks for also being brief. And I think it allows people to make their opening remarks, and then we can have a discussion. Can I ask you, is it Vuzu, to give your opening remarks? Thank you. Vuzu, your mic is muted. Okay, maybe he's having some problems there. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I believe the passing of CAB 3 is actually a symptom of something much greater in Zimbabwe. It's not the problem in and of itself. And I believe if we fix this one problem, we will actually fix all others in the process. The reason why I'm not worried about CAB 3 is because CAB 3 is a manifestation of a much deeper problem in Zimbabwe, which we seem to keep circling around and never quite address. And what it has finally culminated in is a law being passed, which we have no say in. And that underlying problem in Zimbabwe is that the people are not allowed to disagree with the government without being victimized. If all of us could pull our focus and resources on challenging this foundational aspect of Zimbabwe's democracy, I believe every other problem in our country would be solved. Literally every other problem in our country rests on this. We cannot disagree with our government without being victimized. There cannot be electoral reforms. There cannot be reform of the judiciary. There cannot be anything until Zimbabweans are allowed to disagree with the government without being victimized. For me, that was what the point of the protest on the 31st would have been. We cannot talk about a shutdown when people do not even have the courage to post or repost something negative about their president. That already tells you the problem is that fear has been instilled in people such that they cannot do anything. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Michelle. Can we come to Ben? Can you give us your opening remarks?
Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us. You know, my belief is that from the very beginning at independence, Zimbabwe has never and was never a democracy. I mean, we know from the very first election, ZANU-PF made it perfectly clear that if they did not win the war, if they did not win the election, the Bush War would not stop. And that permanently closed any door for democracy. All these other things that we are seeing where they just bull rush us and push us all aside. This is the ZANU-PF way of saying it is either our way or the highway. So this shouldn't be a surprise, you know.
Thanks so much, Ben. Tendai, go ahead, please. Tendai, can you go ahead? Your mic is muted. Okay. I'll give my opening remarks. I believe we are where we are. We have had many opportunities to end this ZANU-PF dictatorship. We have failed to do so. We had many opportunities to end the dictatorship, and we have failed to make the most of that opportunity, of those opportunities, particularly during the GNU. But we are where we are. And I think that is where I honestly think we need to focus on. We are a failed state. We have a dictatorship. And I agree with Michelle when she says that the regime has been created so that it silences the voices of the ordinary people. That is where we are. The question that we really need to focus then on, how can we get out of this situation? And in my opinion, the main problem we have had is we keep repeating the same mistakes. That has been the problem. We had opportunities to end the dictatorship, we wasted it. 46 years is a long time. We can't say we did not have the opportunity to end the dictatorship in that period. We did, and we wasted it. It's just that we don't learn from our mistakes. And I think that is where we need to pause and say, okay, from now on, what have we learned from the past? And we should make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes. That is the main thrust of my argument. So I don't know whether anyone would want to comment on the comments that are made by other people or expand on that issue. Anybody? Brett?
So I would want to
I
start with.
don't.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
no. Let Benji go.
Thank you, Brett. So I would want to start with what Mafa started by saying that Mnangagwa is incapable of doing some of the things that he is said to have done. I believe he is very much capable, and he has done some of the most atrocious acts this side of heaven. We cannot just wipe his slate clean and say, he's a saint. Somebody behind him must have been doing whatever he did. Somebody wrote for him. He's said some things where you can see this is off script, and he's particularly saying it. So that day, we shouldn't assume that somebody did this. If they say, if you are part and parcel of a gang, you are with the gang. You know what I'm saying? So he did it. And we should not try and say, he is not that learned. To kill does not need you to learn. To commit some of the most outrageous and atrocious acts does not need you to go to school. It is just within your DNA and your surrounding. I mean, we have seen some guys that are within ZANU PF that really think that they own the place and they run the show. It's something that they believe in. It is not, you don't have to go to school for it. It's by you associating, you become. So from that day, we shouldn't try and say, this person here is not capable of doing that. He's done it. Period.
Thank you, Ben. Brett, do you want to come in?
Yeah, look, I agree with what Ben's saying. He is very capable, and we must not underestimate the enemy at any point here. I mean, these are serious players. He may not be the brains behind it. He may not be the muscle totally behind it. But the fact of the matter is, he has some serious backing, and the serious backing that he has. Again, it goes back to my initial statement. In order to fix a problem, we need to know what we're up against in order to come up with a proper solution. So when we talk of the regime, it's multifaceted. It's all over the place. Like Michelle also said, it's not just specifically this or that. It's everything combined that makes the regime. Now, if we look at Cab 3, we look at that wedding with all those presents and the cash that was splashed. We look at all the voice notes about I can appoint a minister, what bragging that he basically owns the country. If we put those three things together, you can see a clear picture that should tell us there is no democracy within the country. There is no chance of a court application or constitutional court. There's no chance of an election changing things. There's no chance of a petition. There's no chance of a demonstration. So that should tell us straight away. Again, we go back. In order to find a solution, we must understand the problem. The problem is there is a military government in place. Now, how do you remove a military government? If you look at the history of Zimbabweans, there is no Zimbabwean that is going to go on the street and demonstrate and remove that regime. That's not going to happen. So we need to be clear about that. Yes, we can come up with that initiative, and it does accomplish some good because it makes news, and regional leaders get like surprised. Oh, I didn't know this was happening in Zimbabwe. So there is some good, but at what cost? How many people are going to get arrested? How many people will die? How many people will get beaten and probably maimed for life? What cost is it for that demonstration? What is it going to cost us versus what are we going to get in return? Not much, according to me. I don't think it's worth it. What I think it's worth it is a very small group of people, 5 or 6 individuals, who will lead a government in exile. Once those 5 or 6 individuals come up with a plan, and when I say come up with a plan, if you look at people that are trying to lead Zimbabwe now, and you look at the Geza revolution, when I spoke to Comrade Geza and his assistants, I said to them, guys, release something that can show the people of Zimbabwe that you are different. Tell them that school is going to be free. Show them how you are going to pay for it. Show them where the finances come from. Tell them that healthcare is going to be sorted because you are going to do this and this and this. In other words, put forward a proper, understandable manifesto, not something that like MDC used to do. How are you going to solve unemployment? We are going to grow the economy 10%. It's bullshit. It's useless. The man on the street doesn't understand that. You want somebody to understand that toll gates will be removed under this government. It's a statement. You don't have to think, you don't have to try and research. It's a statement. That is what we are going to do. School fees will be free for every child until Form 4. That will be free. From Form 4, only children who have good marks will be paid for upper 6 and university. Because I think I say my door for university. That's stupid. So these are policies. Those are just two simple things. How we communicate that to people is what must happen with this government in exile. This government in exile must produce an exact government. If the ZANU-PF government goes to Sweden, we go and talk to the Swedish ambassador in our country and we say, no, that guy is illegal. It's an illegitimate government. Don't sign anything with them. We are the proper government. And we continuously do that. At the same time doing that, we need to be training a few operatives in military skills. Now, I know ZANU-PF is everywhere. Every single platform has got CIOs. They're probably going to say that, Brett, you want to do an uprising. 100% correct. 100% correct. We sit in meetings. We discuss constitutionalism. If we want to remove ZANU-PF in our meetings, we talk of campaign. How can we put up posters? Let's do a rally. Let's go to court and fight this. That's how we fight ZANU-PF. When ZANU-PF sit in a meeting, they say, Brett tingamuuraya sei, Benji tinomusunga sei, Michelle tinoparadza kumusha kwavo sei. That's what ZANU-PF discusses in meetings. They don't discuss how they're going to beat us constitutionally. They don't discuss how they're going to do an election and remove us like that. They discuss how to eliminate us. So again, we go back to that question. In order to come up with a solution, we must understand the problem. The problem is Zimbabweans will not go into the streets until something happens. 2017, vanhu vakapinda muroad because the coup had already occurred. No one's coming before the coup. No one. Trust me, no one's coming. Okay? What you need is you need a government in exile that funds a revolution. You get 40, 50 people that you train, and those 40, 50 people go and remove the top 20 of the people who are kunetsa Zimbabwe. That's how you start the revolution. Anything other than that, demonstration, court application, what, you will get limited to zero support. The only way forward is to remove, just like it happened in 2017. You went to bed tonight, you woke up tomorrow, Mugabe aenda. How it happened in those 12 hours, that's what needs to be repeated. But it needs to have structure. Otherwise, you're going to have the same shit as what we've got now. And that structure comes with that government in exile. If there's no government in exile, the messages and the reports that I am getting, the people who will take over without a government in exile, they have no policies, they have nothing. They will have a bloodbath. Zimbabwe will become like Iraq or Afghanistan. Having a government in exile is actually going to save Zimbabwe. But that's my view, and that's my point of how we move forward from here.
Well, I I would like to just remind people that if you want to
I just,
come
yeah,
in,
if I can chime in, if that's okay. I was on fire earlier when I started. So some of my statements might be misconstrued. But I am trained as an industrial economist. ERGO, economics, not economics, economics. And I'm also a rehabilitation specialist. I worked as a psychiatry leader at an hospital. I can tell you that the person is mentally unwell by me simply walking behind them before I even talk to them. I can tell you the character of a person by the way they walk. I can tell you that that's a South African, that's a Zimbabwean, that's a person from Nigeria. I can tell you that if I see somebody throwing punches, if you remember, you saw Mnangagwa throwing punches at trade fair, whatever, throwing punches. There, he told me exactly the kind of person he is. You are all afraid of Mnangagwa. You think he did all these things. Mnangagwa is not an educated person. Mnangagwa, I'm not trying to say that because he's a lawyer. Eventually, I think they paid for it. He is not intellectual. Look at the people around Buddha and all the people with fake PhDs. He's avoided the people who have the capacity to really build the country. And one of the things I've seen is he ran away during the time of the coup. He was running. So you guys are still focused. You are afraid of him. He did this thing. Yeah, he has people advising him. I like Brett on that. Other people advising him, to do these things. And actually, he does take advice. Clearly, there are people running the country behind him, Nangagwa, telling him what to do. And clearly, he himself is a coward. He has never even fought in high school. I can bet you 100%. I can look at your handwriting and I can tell you whether you are smart, whether you are not smart, whether you are capable, whether you could be an engineer, whether you could be. I am trained in this for 30 years, guys. I've been doing this. Munangagwa has no capacity to stand the pressure. When he is under pressure, he will run. Now, the problem is for us to identify who is behind the power. That's important. Now, Brett has clearly stated that in the military is not behind him now because obviously he's fighting with Chiwenga. Chiwenga was watching him like a dog and he was still controlling the military while he was vice president. So now Mnangagwa has been trying to think logically to say, you know what, I need to make sure these people who are criminal in his mind, he knows they committed treason. He did not commit treason. Even if he wants to say he did, if I have a lawyer, I will exonerate him. He has no capacity to organize that coup. I want you to agree to me on that. And then another thing most of us have refused to agree is that participating in that coup was the most egregious thing Zimbabweans ever did. We were wrong. We shouldn't have even gotten involved in it. And then to even say Mugabe should go illegally, that was unconstitutional. So now you have kept three. You have no basis for complaining anything. You have no basis for anything. So until we can say, you know what, this was wrong, we get rid of the people who have caused us wrong because they are still dependent on us and we are still pushing ourselves to depend on them. We are waiting for Chamisa to do something. We are waiting for Komiti to do something. We're waiting for Maduku. Maduku, of course, hadn't been participating in all of these crimes. He wasn't part of this. I think he's the only person with clean hands. Mutambara, DT is still calling for the military to intervene. These people are never going to take Zimbabwe anywhere. And they
sorry,
say you don't
Papa.
give you
Can,
more.
can I interrupt you there? Can I interrupt you there?
Go right ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. What I wanted actually for us to focus on is take, for instance, let's take one issue at a time. Can we agree that street protests in Zimbabwe would deliver nothing?
Oh yeah,
Personally,
I can tell you that.
let me just
Street,
give
go ahead,
my
finish.
take on that one. Personally, I honestly believe street protests in Zimbabwe, as much as people are saying they are going to be peaceful, there is no chance. This is a regime that knows violence. And all those who have been calling for peaceful protests on the 31st of July, the regime has already been talking about, we have got the police and the army prepared. They will assume the protests will be violence and they will treat them accordingly. This is why I honestly think the street protests will not work. Anyone want to add
No,
anything?
I can add that. I need to answer you on that because I think I'm the only one who's saying street protest is the only viable way. Look at South Africa. Protest is the only viable way. The power belongs to the people. And street protest is what gave the military regime credibility after they perpetrated complete a coup process. And so street process, however, must be done without the blessing of the military. Nobody wants you to have a street protest, whether it's Donald Trump or it's the Queen of England or the King of England or something. They don't want you to do that because that is actually emphasizing that the people have power. Street protest is the only solution, non-violent method. People need to rise, people need to stand, and people need not to move. And it's about how it is arranged. And once they go into that zone, they don't leave. It is how it is done. It is how it is organized to make sure people don't burn the shops, people don't run the streets like they are crazy, people don't do toy. In fact, it's about going together at one place and agreeing to never leave that place. We could go to the stadium, where the showgrounds there, right before, right near Sheraton. We could choose a venue, but
Yeah,
we do not move because
but you're not addressing the problem I raised.
no, the problem is the beginning to start to get the street protests. Because if you don't do street protests, then that means you are now escalating to either military, and that is something that comes after when we have been oppressed, and we have to be willing to lose lives. And if you're not willing to face that, there is no way you are going to remove this regime. There's no way you're going to make Mnangagwa run.
Yeah, no, Marfa, the argument I used is that you and me would agree we need peaceful street protests. What I'm saying to you is the regime does not have in its vocabulary peace protests. It will immediately assume they are going to be violence and they are going to treat you accordingly.
I don't think there's anyone who has actually done it the proper way. I was moving with Brother Komichi to make the applications from the United States here to ask to follow the process with the police, to exhaust every process, to go to court and seek that help to make sure that people want to. So I know they will refuse, but then we go to court, we go through until we get that date that they all agree upon. But that date we are organized. And they said we have to prevent, certain people who are going to cause issues, who are going to be infiltrating to cause violence so that it can be seen as a violent protest. That's part of the process. We have to do it that way. I'm telling you, we have to do the
yeah. On that point, the issue of street protests.
Let's look at what the example that Brett gave us, where he is talking of a government in exile, where in the background you first put your house in order, such that when you have everything in place, you can then go and do what needs to be done. We go back even to the military coup that happened in 2017. The military coup happened, and then the people followed. That way, when you look at the situation in Zimbabwe, if you and I were to say, let us go and have a peaceful protest, and right now, if you go on social media, ZANU-PF is saying we will not allow and we will beat you. Whether it's peaceful or not peaceful, they've already made their stance clear. So when you look at it in, open-minded, you know that there is a showdown that is imminent, and we shouldn't go lying and saying that it's going to be peaceful. It's never going to be peaceful. It was never peaceful from the very beginning. I've never heard Zimbabwe have a peaceful protest, and unless it was for that march where we ousted Mugabe, because ZANU-PF was involved. And if ZANU-PF is involved, it's peaceful because nobody has to fight the other. But if it's against them, a showdown is imminent. And that is what is the truth. So, this whole idea of saying, let's go and have marches and so forth, and put banners to say it's peaceful, I think that is the biggest lie that we are telling ourselves in the first place. And we will get ourselves, because we're carrying roses and the other guys are coming with guns. We will get massacred.
Anyone else wants to add something on that one?
You are dealing with incompetent. Hey there, good to see you. You're dealing with incompetent leaders, people who are compromised. I had General Chiwenga call me on behalf of Brother Komich. I was hoping he was going to be here today. Why was he already collaborating with committee to talk about how we are going to have a street protest? He's already infiltrated. We have Chamisa also infiltrated. He doesn't do anything. We have no credible leaders. Our leaders are already CIO, part and parcel of the process. So that is why we have no leadership. I promise you, if I'm to organize the street protest, they will succeed. But you have not given me the opportunity, and all of you are already afraid, like, oh, it can't happen, he will be shot. Nobody's gonna. Yeah, we expect that, but we have a certain way that you should behave, right? When that happens, you have to behave and absorb the shock. There's a way you have to do it. I've been doing with Black Lives Matter here in America. There's a way you have to do it. Because if you then become confrontational, because they are trying to agitate you. So that's what. So you have to behave a certain way, and you are dealing with malcontents within the opposition who are actually trying to make sure the result is bad. We cannot trust any of the leaders that we have. That is the first thing. We need new leaders. We need a new regime in the leadership of the opposition because they already participated in a coup. Chamisa should never be a president because he participated in a coup, and he should. I'm not against him organizing a coup, but he's never done one in the first place. He actually says people who participated trying to help him were stupid. That is the kind of leadership you have, and you think he's separate from Komichi just because Komichi doesn't say it. You think he's separate from BT and other people. BT was running away, akabatwa border, Mozambique, Zambia. So now we do not have leadership. We have rotten leadership, and the mass non-violent action is the only system. I mean, I like Brett very much. The idea of a government outside Zimbabwe, whatnot, maybe, but it is dangerous. You'll be arrested. You'll be immediately be extradited from South Africa, wherever you are. You can't because none of the countries, they remember they have a relationship with Zimbabwe. So China is left with Zimbabwe. South Africa is coming to the president's meeting to Zimbabwe. It's not gonna work. You need to fight and face the devil and fight. Thank you.
I totally agree with you that having good leaders who organize street protests is also important. But I think the problem also of the regime itself, is a serious problem. I don't know whether anyone wants to say anything more on that issue specifically, or can we go on to the next issue? Okay. My response to Brett, I think he and myself, we have discussed this a long time. One of the problems we have with this a government in exile is that we have participated in our millions in the flawed elections, which even the governments in SADC had advised, do not participate in these elections. And we went ahead and participated. It comes back to what Mafa was talking about, bad leadership. But nonetheless, the fact still remains. Millions of Zimbabweans participated in the 2023 elections. SADC and the AU condemned those elections as flawed and illegal, but they could not go the extra mile and deny ZANU-PF legitimacy because Zimbabweans had participated in their millions. They were conned to participate, true, but the fact still remains, you participated. And I think that is at the heart of the problem. Any SADC country out there would be saying, well, you want to form a government in exile. Why did you participate and give the present government legitimacy? Because that becomes a problem. I don't know whether Brett have thought about that issue as well.
So when we speak of a government in exile, we're speaking of a group of Zimbabweans who come together and say that they do not recognize the government back home and that we are offering an alternative government in exile. There's nothing illegal about that. In South Africa, you see, the nice thing about South Africa is that it is one of the most forwarded and, how can I put it, inclusive constitution, I think, in the entire world, probably better than America's one. And you have the right to do what you want in this country peacefully. I even have the right to open up a security company, take 20 Zimbabweans, train them in anti-rhino poaching activities, give them firearms, train for tactics, train for personal protection of dignitaries, etc. We are allowed to do that here. 100% legal, no problems, no issues whatsoever. So when we say a government in exile, the government in exile can be named something else, but the word government in exile is what elicits a lot of, you guys can't declare government. How are you going to do SADC going to approve? How's South Africa going to? We're not asking for permission to solve our problems. We don't need recognition from SADC for that government. We do not need recognition from South Africa for that government. We will tell the South African Secret Service about what we are doing as a way of being polite because it is their country. And I'm starting that process already. We have a contact in the what would be the equivalent of the Zimbabwe CIOs. And to be quite honest, the people that we have met here in South Africa, every single one of the dignitaries in government will secretly support a government in exile, but will not publicly endorse it. So that's a bit of information that everyone needs to know. They want to solve the Zimbabwe problem. There is a few people who are benefiting from the Zimbabwe problem. These are the people that are involved in cigarette smuggling, changing the cigarette money to buy gold from Zama-Zamas, taking that to Dubai. Those are people that are benefiting from the situation in Zimbabwe, and they don't want anything to change. But they are the minority. And from this week of Zimbabweans being chased away and immigration and so forth and so on, we've even had the March on March people contacting us to offer assistance. I've even got some South Africans that are willing, when the bank account is open, to donate 20 Rand, 30 Rand, 50 Rand each a month to the Zimbabwean cause. South Africans doing that. In my inbox, and this is what I think people also, you might want to sort of take this on board when making decisions. The last video we did gathered about 1.6 million views. Those 3 days, we got a total of just over 1,300 messages on Facebook. We also got about 700-800 messages on WhatsApp. Now, I haven't gone through all of them. I'm probably about 3 weeks behind. But I can tell you right now, from the hundreds of messages, maybe nearly 1,000 that I've gone through, every single person supports the idea of a government in exile. If we announce a government in exile, as Comrade Mafa said, the leadership that's in the opposition now is useless. If you include any of them, the project will fail. Not because they're CIO or because they are bad organizers or anything. No. I don't know what has happened to them, but Mazdao Ashiba. If I go with the inboxes and the messages and the people that I meet, no one will support anything that is led by a previous MDC leader or Triple C leader or anything like that. They will not bite on that at all. The government in exile has to be completely and utter new leadership, even if it's someone that has never entered politics and the first start of politics is now. That person has a better chance than tried and tested leaders and failed leaders within the opposition at the moment. So those are the things that I'm getting from the people that are messaging me and talking to me and giving me their thoughts and processes and everything. If we provide a proper manifesto and if we provide a proper plan forward, the government in exile will take off.
I just want to invite people there to ask question to Brett. A government in exile. That's a proposal. Anyone wants to make a remark on that one? Well, my personal remark, Brett, which you have not answered. While I agree that we have got poor leadership in the opposition, that I accept, we cannot also run away from the fact that those mediocre, corrupt, incompetent, and sometimes utterly useless MDC Triple C leaders have managed to con people, millions of them, to participate in flawed electoral processes, which SADC and the AU could not pretend did not happen. And hence the reason why, in my view, they did not deny ZANU-PF political legitimacy. And I think that remains a central problem. As long as we have got millions of electorate, Zimbabwean voters, who would happily follow the same corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless opposition leaders, we have a problem. Because as long as you participate in your millions, you give that regime legitimacy. That is, to me, a central problem. I don't know whether you would want to address that specifically.
That is one of the reasons why the mass protests and the demonstrations and the elections and court procedures and applications, etc., won't work, simply because of the compromised leadership that is there. Again, whether we've participated in elections or not at that time is really none of SADC's business. If SADC decides tomorrow, and they did, they endorsed a coup in Zimbabwe. That's what SADC did. They endorsed it because they didn't kick up a fuss. They didn't send armies to defend Mugabe as per the agreements. They didn't send a helicopter to come and fetch him. They didn't do any of that. So on that day, when that happened, it suited SADC to ignore that. So I think what we're trying to do here is we're trying to ask the lion if it wants to eat meat or not. I don't think that is a question that we need to ask the lion. The lion's going to eat that meat whether we ask it or not. What we need to understand as Zimbabweans is we are on our own. There is no one coming to save us. America is getting the minerals, Israel is getting the diamonds, the South Africans, some of them are getting the illegal cigarette trade. They're also getting free, cheap, and qualified labor. These are things that are happening. No one's coming to rescue us. No one. The minute we understand that, again, we go back to that. Once you understand the problem, you can come up with solutions. No one cares about what happens in Zimbabwe. We can have 100,000 Zimbabweans die tomorrow from being shot or starved or whatever. I don't know if you guys have heard how many mothers and babies have died over the last year in Zimbabwe because there's no basic maternity care in Zimbabwe. So people are already dying. Zimbabwe is already at war with itself. We are already dying. If you count the number of people who have now got AIDS because the families have broken up, how many young children are prostitutes, you count how many people have been raped and stabbed crossing borders, how many mental issues we have in America and Britain because people are working 18 hours a day. Zimbabwe is already at war. It's just that people don't want to admit it. You are already dying, just they don't know. So we are on our own. We need to come up with our own solutions. We don't care as long as what we are doing is legal in this country where we are basing it. That's all we need to care about. That government in exile will get to a point through the actions of the leadership where the ordinary Zimbabwean will support that over everything else. And the biggest issue is funding. Funding is where it's going to be a make or break because funding is what accomplishes everything. If we fail, and at the moment we are failing, to get $1 or $2 from every single Zimbabwean in the diaspora, if we have a budget of 1 million, let's say Zimbabweans donate $2 a month, you've got a $2 million budget. With a $2 million budget, a government in exile would be able to take over Zimbabwe within 12 months. Very simple, very easy. It's a done deal. But the problem is to get 1 million Zimbabweans to donate $2 to something that they are maybe skeptical about. The other option is to arrive at an embassy that is already looting our country, to tell them that they can loot it a little bit more if they give us money to remove the regime, because that is also an option. And that option is on the table also. You must remember, for everybody who's stealing diamonds and gold, there's someone who would want to steal them themselves. So there's always opposition to what's been happening. If you look at the cigarette cartel, you look at the diamonds, there are companies around the world that want to come and take our diamonds. They want to come and take over the cigarette cartels. These are the people that will fund you in order to remove the regime, but you are then indebted to them. They then become your boss. So we want to try and avoid that and get to the Zimbabweans solving Zimbabwe's problems. And that comes with that $2 per person per month. So it's ambitious, but you cannot at this stage continue to do things that have been tried before and have failed. You know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of madness.
Sorry, anyone want to
Yeah.
comment on that? Ben, yeah?
I would want to say, I don't believe that Zimbabwe is fighting a battle on its own. I mean, we've just had the 2023 election. And from that election, we had many observer missions that came to invigilate. That's a word that I like to use, to mark and, invigilate our process. And with one voice, all of them, they stated that our election was below the international standards and it did not even meet our constitutional demands. And that record is there. And this is why you find the likes of SADC, they called the extraordinary meeting to discuss. They weren't just going to just shelf it. Now, what happened for them to be powerless is that whilst they are debating and calling Mnangagwa to order, we all saw his video when he came out of that extraordinary meeting. He was clearly sweating and unhappy. But what was happening back home was that the same opposition guys were getting sworn in to office, meaning that they had accepted it. They accepted the results to say, no, what you're talking is nonsense, you guys. We won fair and square. And besides, we used our own money. That was their excuse. So what was SADC then to do in an internal affairs where everybody's happy about it? They were powerless and made it look like idiots. So we cannot then just say, the likes of SADC, they have been endorsing. And look, they gave us the GNU. It wasn't a perfect thing. But I believe that was the nearest that we were. If the opportunity was taken, then what did ZANU-PF just do? He gave Morgan Tsvangirai $4 million house. The rest of his clowns, they gave him, cars, farms. Now we are understanding. And everything was okay. It's only that we, the people of Zimbabwe, have not been switched on to see the obvious. So we cannot say that we are on our own. We have been refusing hospital treatment. People have been trying to help us. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I mean, Brett was just talking about doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is madness. They always say we are going to win big in an election. But they know it is impossible. But they look to say, what do I stand to gain? This is the type of leaders that we have in Zimbabwe. But we cannot then go and blame the entire world because we have chosen incompetent leaders and we have continuously supported them. That is on us. And I think we cannot just keep on, blaming the next guy for our own stupidity. I always say, don't blame Delilah for Samson's stupidity. Delilah was doing a job. We got to take ownership at some point. And I believe, coming back to the street protest, I think there will be a time for that when we have the backing. Right now, right now, everybody is, imagine this way. Zimbabwean opposition is getting arrested. Individuals are getting arrested for saying that they want a peaceful protest. But ZANU-PF right now, their people are actually saying, we are going to muri you. We are going to eat you. But they're not getting arrested. So who's inciting violence there? So you cannot say we are going to have a peaceful protest in Zimbabwe. I think you will be just lying to yourself. You're delusional. There is no such thing as a peaceful protest in Zimbabwe. It's guns and guns alone. People are going to fight. Whether it's going to be a fight. So I think we better get that straight.
Well, my remark to what Brett was saying there, it will be, you brought up a key point that at the present moment, it is near impossible to raise funds from Zimbabweans. And one of the reasons for it is that we still have a significant number of people, of Zimbabweans, who still believe in the same corrupt, incompetent, and failed leaders. I have been castigated on a number of occasions for saying that the opposition, uh, specifically Chamisa, lied when he said he has plugged vote rigging loopholes. There are some things that we should not even be debating. That is a historic fact. He did say that. He did even evoke the name of God. But to get some people to accept that he lied, it seems like a bridge too far. And I think that is where, Brett, you have got to accept also that a government in exile that does not have the backing of many Zimbabweans in the diaspora, for instance, will find it very difficult to function. And like you correctly said, raising funds to fund it, any activities, is very difficult because of that. Because many still believe that the opposition we have is doing an effective job. And in my view, the solution has to be we have to go to those Zimbabweans and persuade them, explain to them that we can't keep repeating the same mistake over and over again. This issue of believing that Chamisa will plug the vote rigging loopholes to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections was an outrage. He made the same promise in 2018. And that is the basis on which MDC has been working on ever since the failed GNU. How long are we going to continue repeating the same mistake? But we have to educate them. We cannot expect to have a Zimbabwe where we discard the ZANU-PF diehards, we discard this Chamisa Chete Chete brigade, and find we are now dealing with just a few thousand people, and expect we can have a country running while the majority of all these people are doing something totally different. I don't think we can do that. I think we have to bite the bullet and accept we have got an electorate that has been brainwashed. But ZANU-PF has done a good job on that. And the opposition, instead of educating their voters, their supporters, they've exploited that weakness. They honestly are portraying themselves as demigods. If there's one thing that has been consistent with our opposition, is that they don't want to be held to account. The same mentality that we've seen in people like Mnangagwa, Mutsangwa, Chiwenga, all these other ZANU-PF opposition leaders have had the same mentality. They are special. They should not be held to account. That is where we should start, in my view.
I don't know if Michelle is still
Wilbert.
there. It would be nice to hear from her because
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Michelle.
I actually wanted to pick up on the point you are making about our opposition in Zimbabwe. Something a lot of people don't know is that ZANU-PF is actually not as powerful as they seem. The greatest tool in ZANU-PF's arsenal is illusions. ZANU-PF is good at creating illusions. What has kept ZANU-PF in power for decades is that they know how to keep an illusion going. The power of any leader comes from the people. Even if they have guns, they can never have enough soldiers to outnumber the people. ZANU-PF is aware of that. It's why they work so hard to create illusions. Their greatest strength is illusions. And what do I mean by illusions? It's creating the illusion, for example, that we are a democracy that has opposition leaders. That has been their greatest weapon, if I'm being honest. And if ever we are going to challenge ZANU-PF, we have to start there. People are beholden to people who are quite literally employees of ZANU-PF, posing as opposition leaders. And it is their job and they are doing it well. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to implicate anyone. Also, I don't want to be sued for defamation, but it's up to you as a person to see and decide who's who. It's up to us to show people. But we are not going to win if we approach people and say, oh, listen, your leader, so and so, is actually, on ZANU-PF's payroll. Oh, this person is, they are going to fight you to the end of the earth. Because someone, in order to accept that they made a mistake in judgment, it takes a lot of, it's a blow to your ego. A lot of people are actually not willing to accept that just like that. So we are not going to win if we try to convince them that they are leaders that they are beholden to abet. The only way to do this is to show them, upstage them. If someone moves to the front, especially us people, and we start doing what needs to be done, we start doing the right thing. That means forming the relationship, sending the email, showing up to the meeting. Sorry, guys, I'm being disrupted by my daughter.
Well, my remark on what Michelle was saying there is I totally agree. I have often said that Mnangagwa is a buffoon. ZANU-PF leaders are not intelligent. If they were, the country would not be in such a mess. Who would inherit a country with such great potential and make such a dog's breakfast of it if they are intelligent? So on that point, I totally agree. But we cannot also deny that the opposition leaders that we have elected and whose primary purpose was to implement the democratic reforms to dismantle the ZANU-PF dictatorship have turned out to be breathtakingly incompetent, corrupt, and utterly useless. That is the reality. That is the political reality in Zimbabwe. And that is what we have got to deal with in Zimbabwe. It is a challenge. But I seriously think that it is not an unsurmountable challenge.
No, it's not.
Sorry,
It's not.
go ahead.
I was saying the way to surmount this challenge is for someone to step forward and do what needs to be done. If people see you doing what needs to be done, they will naturally see, oh, but this guy, he claims to be our leader and to be against ZANU-PF, but he doesn't seem to be doing what these people are doing. Eventually, they will naturally gravitate to you, but trying to make them see that their leaders are not exactly, it's not really going to work. They are going to fight you because a person also has to accept that they were wrong. A person also has to accept that they have been betrayed. A person, when you try to approach them with that kind of information, it's why I don't engage in those kind of conversations. I prefer to just do the right thing, do my job, do what needs to be done. People will eventually see that this person claims to be fighting ZANU-PF, but they haven't even sent the damn email to SADC, for example. What are you leading exactly? Where are we going? We understand your reservations about a match, okay, but where is the court application? Where are the meetings with the other leaders in the region? Where eventually people will see that we are going nowhere here. The biggest tool in ZANU-PF's arsenal is illusions, and that's why they are willing to fight anyone who tries to break that illusion. If we want to win, the first thing we have to do, break the illusion for people, because even Nami, when I try to approach people in Sevens and work with them, I make no progress because they really are beholden to these people for some reason, and they really think these people are the ones who are going to come with some magical solution at some point. And my chat is Sam, you have been following this person for 20 years now. Do you not think if they had a plan, they would have done it by now? I'm listening to you guys. You are mentioning to all the things that have happened over the years and the mistakes the opposition leaders have made. And quite frankly, when I'm listening to it, to me, it sounds like things that were deliberate. The plan has never been to get rid of ZANU-PF. The plan has always been to prolong this as long as possible. And if we today, here, now, decide this stops, we can stop it. But we can only stop it if we actually do the work and provide the alternative. The reason why I'm quiet throughout this call is because I'm a very practical person. If you say there's a problem, I immediately want to discuss solutions. And I want solutions broken down from long-term, medium-term, short-term. We cannot only focus on the end goal and say we want CAPE 3 gone, we want electoral reforms. But how are you getting, what are the small steps every day that you need to take to get there? Do you need to send an email somewhere? Do you need to write an article? Do you need to form a relationship? So the reason why I'm even here on this call is because of relationship building. Because we need to build relationships as opposition leaders or whatever activists in order for us to do this. Our main challenge is all of us are working in isolation. Everyone seems to be doing their own thing there. This person has good contacts, but they are using them only for their organization here. This person is good, is charismatic, but they don't have a platform. This one, we are sitting on the solutions. Our problem is simply that we are not streamlining our processes. That is the problem. And it's what I wanted us to address when I created the Zimbabwe National Unity Council, to say, let's have one central meeting point where, whether you are a civil society organization, whether you are a church, whether you are a political organization, can we have somewhere where we all meet, even if it's not all of your members of your church or civil society organization, if it's simply the leaders, for us that is enough, then they take the message there. And we also recognize that most people have been working very hard to build their brands, their communities, their networks. It's not going to be easy to ask someone, oh, hi, please leave what you're doing and come and join us. A lot of people are going to be reluctant. It's why we say we are a movement of movements. Whatever you are doing, whatever you are working on, whatever structures you have, your logos, keep it. Continue doing what you are doing. Just can you have one place where we meet and say, this is the plan and this is where we are going? Because even Brett's challenge that he keeps mentioning, that funding is a problem when it comes to these things. This is, for me, also not a problem. There are very simple solutions for this. The problem is people don't want to give you guys money because no one wants to give their money to this organization today, this one today, this one today. Laba bathi reform, nothing came of it. Laba bathi bazenza anti-CAPE 3, nothing came of it. Now eventually no one wants to give money to things that don't seem to be going anywhere. If you guys want people to be serious and part with their money for you, Nani, beg something that you can go out there into the world and say, this is us as Zimbabweans that we are working on. Can we have money? Because we have done that with the Zimbabwe National Unity Council. South Africans are even ready and willing to donate to us because we have presented the image that this is a unified body of Zimbabweans who are trying to do ABC. Imagine when our fear, sufuna donation with CDF, Lono sefuna donation webaranda beZimbabwe. This one wants donations for civic engagement, forum of Zimbabwe. People are not going to want to part with their money because all of these things, they don't seem to be going anywhere. But if you guys had one place, one GoFundMe that we say this GoFundMe is to fund bringing back democracy in Zimbabwe. If it's $1 million in there, Tina, we say as the Zimbabwe National Unity Council, we have 70 organizations under us. How many have said they need funding for ABC? Where are the funding needs right now? We distribute the money accordingly. Everyone has a say in that. No one is controlling the funds on their own. If money needs to be withdrawn from a bank account, there are signatories from different organizations. If we were to approach it like that, I can assure you, you can even find donors who can give you even $1 million, because you are finally, all of you, doing one thing. I don't even want to, like, if any of you came to me asking for money as Zimbabwean activists and opposition leader, said there's no one I'm going to part with my money, because Nami, I don't want to be scammed. So now you need to understand that when you're asking for money, the people you're asking for are thinking the same thing. But if different faces that people have seen online and wherever, all of a sudden you started saying the same name of one organization in our interviews, on podcasts, on whatever, it's going to stick. Now I want to even asking daily bank account. They will ask, we won't even need to say, can we have money? People will say to us, hey guys, this thing that you're doing, can I please give you money? But now if all of us are talking about different organizations now, but they don't know what is happening. I hope everyone understands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I think personally, I think our biggest problem, as much as I agree that money is a serious problem, our biggest problem is actually we don't have ideas, convincing ideas that things would work. But I think we should always try to get together like we've done today and talk about it. I know some people would say that we're going to stop for them to watch football. So I would like to give everybody the chance to give their closing remarks. Can you please make it, say, 2-3 minutes maximum? Can we start with you, Brett?
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for that. Look, it's got to start somewhere, and all I can do is tell you what we're doing, and maybe if people think that that's cool, then so be it. I mean, we've got a budget of 22 grand a month, 8 grand for the office, 10 grand for the person who's working in the office. I've explained this on a couple of platforms already. We have got, I would say, probably half of that in pledges at the moment. Mind you, a pledge is very different to actually taking money out of your pocket. So that's a pledge. But there are people that are willing to donate for that part of it. I feel once there is the memorandum of understanding, I will then give that out to whoever's interested. Like everybody says, your organization is still your organization. You get one seat at the table of the government in exile. We are equal partners. We sit and talk and discuss things. I still keep my VVZ. You guys keep whatever it is that you have. And once that office is up and there's someone who can sit at a computer from 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, knowing that this is all they are doing, they are contacting Zimbabweans across the world, finding Zimbabweans in Australia, in New Zealand, in England, in the UK, wherever they are, emailing them, telling them about the government in exile and what we are planning to do, giving them a copy of our manifesto, giving them a copy of the memorandum of understanding. Once you've done that and you contact 100 people a day, I'm almost certain that we will get between 5 to 10%, probably more, hit rate. And even if we only get a 5 or 10%, 5 people donating £5 or $5, and we do that consistently for 3 months, I think we will have a budget to start running it effectively. I think I'm definitely sure we will be able to do that. So that's my last sort of closing remark. I think a government in exile, you can name it something else. You don't have to name it government in exile, but a group of people in the diaspora offering something different is definitely the way to go.
Thank you very much, Brett. Ben, do you want to give your closing remark?
In closing, I would want to say, unfortunately, the opposition camp or the opposition in Zimbabwe is tainted with corruption and selling out and so many negative aspects. So in as much as we would want to say ZANU-PF is not as strong as we think they are, I think we are far worse. We are now at a point where we are so confused. I mean, look, we probably now getting to almost 200 opposition organizations, each with their different, agendas. For example, on the 31st of July, Everybody's got their, we are going to be doing this, we are going to be doing that, but basically they are all trying to do the same thing. So you just wonder, hey, why on one particular day, just because one of you guys said, I'm going to do it on the 31st, everybody else wants to do it on the 31st. So that to me shows there's a bit of confusion in our camp. And even if you are going to ask somebody to say now, hey, please help me, financially or whatever you can, they will look at like, these guys really don't mean business. They are probably just going to use the money for something else. And we are known to use money for something else. The current opposition has always used money for something else. And then this brings me to my point to say, I have to agree with what most of us said here. I think it is now essential and it must be a must that we get rid of all these old opposition players. They have had almost 26 years to prove that they are capable. And in the 26 years, they have done absolutely nothing. And what we have been told is that they have since benefited from the regime being there. So they have settled and they have been settled. So I think it is now time for us to look as a people to new outfits. But I'm also hoping that these new outfits can come to the sense that, you know what, you cannot go against ZANU PF as small little armies. They will crush you. ZANU PF will crush you. But with the small ideas that we have and we bring it together with our armies and put it into one camp for the time being, when we have cleared the mess, I don't mind us going to the first free and fair election of Zimbabwe having 200 opposition. If it means splitting and sharing whatever we are going to share, whoever wins is the true winner. The first time Zimbabwe would have had the opportunity to have free, fair, and credible election. But for now, we are stronger, united. But we have to have a clear purpose and a vision. What do we want to do and how are we going to do it? Who's going to hold way and who's going to pull way? I think that is the best foot forward for Zimbabwe right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Divine, I don't know whether you're still there.
Yes, I'm here just listening and watching soccer. Yeah, anyway, I want to first acknowledge and thank everybody and give everybody a shout out for attending this event to help us define our concepts, bringing freedom to Zimbabwe. And then, secondly, our others to admit where we made mistakes, especially some of us. Without that, you remain unethical. You remain held by a double standard. You participated in it, you supported it, admit to it, cleanse your heart. Then you are going to be able to understanding that the Constitution is black and white. That we refer to when there's a problem. And it makes you think differently in terms of obviously not thinking of Mugabe had to go, whether it was okay for the army to use him to remove him. And then it becomes incongruent when you look at your own facts, when you think Camp 3 is wrong. None of those two things are correct. Camp 3 is wrong, removing Mugabe was wrong. Then the question is, what do we do from now? Where do we go? But you can't have a better solution. Yes. If you are still supporting that Mugabe had to go illegally, even though you had given him 2013 to participate after that, even though you had seen the opposition was in government of national unity and working with the ZANU PF, sitting across them, eating, planning to develop the country for almost 5 years. And then suddenly you think they are enemies. I have a problem, and I agree with Brett in so many ways that maybe we should have a government outside the country, but the logistics are just hard because of the way the world has changed. It was possible then. The fundamental uh, principles on establishing that requires somebody who's participated maybe in an election. It would have made sense if Chamisa had done it, but he obviously worked for the system. When he got told by Sadak that you lost, he should have immediately formed the government of national unity. He had the credibility to do that. He didn't. And then when Shabango took over the office, and right now Shabango, the CCC doesn't have a leader. Who is the opposition leader in CCC? You see, and they still say Chamisa is the president, even though he said he resigned. So the whole thing, that is why people need to rise. Only a demonstration, non-violence. People need to be in the streets. They need to wake up one day, they are in the street and they're not going anywhere. They are not moving, they're just standing, they're gathering. And no matter what, there is no need for fear. One of the problems that's gripping Zimbabwe is fear. You are afraid of Mnangagwa, and he is a toothless bulldog. And I'm telling you that because I've studied his behavior. I understand the man that he probably doesn't even know how to write. I'm telling you that because he never had formal education. Whatever, if he's a lawyer, he's not even a real lawyer. He probably just paid for it to Zambia, working through Tumbuchena, where he was clerking as a clerk. So you have a person who learned to sit and chair a meeting in parliament for 2 years and practiced and honed the skills of listening and just taking advice and letting the advice and then just reading. I'm sure he can read. So we are led with imbeciles, people who have no skills, and you guys are still giving them credence. But they know what they're doing here. They are scary. They're not scary. ZANU-PF is the least scary beast on planet Earth, but they appear like that. The same way Mnangagwa appears to be a crocodile when he's not. And for that, I say, let's watch soccer. It's 0-0. I don't know who I'm supporting because we have a colonialist Spain versus Argentina colonized, which also became racist and eliminated black people. So I don't know whether I'm supporting sport or I'm supporting race. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Michelle, I don't know whether you want to give your closing remarks. Is she still there? Okay, she's back. Michelle, do you want to give your closing remarks? Okay, I don't know whether she can hear us. But I would like to thank everybody for participating. And I would like to particularly thank everybody for having a...
Yes, hello.
Yes, okay. Do you want to give your closing remarks, Michelle? Okay, I don't know what's wrong with her. But I think it is important.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Michelle, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I wanted to close off by saying what Benjamin said that there's currently a lot of confusion in the opposition. I actually think there is no confusion in opposition. There is chaos that is deliberately created. A lot of problems that we seem to have in opposition are things that could be solved with a simple email or a phone call. But that is not the case because there's someone or there are people who are invested in keeping things this way. Regarding the March of the 31st, our organization, the Zimbabwe National Unity Council, decided to move forward and be the conveners of it, or be known as the conveners of it, even though the call didn't come from us. And no, we don't support shutting down the country and economic activity and violence and burning and looting. And there is absolutely a chance that things could escalate to that. But if no one takes charge of the situation, takes leadership of the situation, then this is what is going to keep happening. If all of us keep walking away and saying, no, I don't want to deal with that, it's not going to succeed. Nothing is ever going to succeed off one try. March and March in South Africa started over a year ago before their successful shutdown on the 30th of June. We have to start somewhere. Even if we show up, we have to start somewhere. But I don't encourage people antagonizing the government unnecessarily. If we need to apply for permission, let's do it. And yes, they are likely not to agree. We have applied for permission, they haven't replied yet. But
Sorry, Michelle, we have lost you there. I don't know whether you can hear me. Okay, just dropped out. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming in and making their contribution. I think we need to have the dialogue. We need to sort out what is it we want to do and have an honest debate on issues. This is something that ZANU-PF has managed to rob the nation of. ZANU-PF has deliberately created a political system in which there is no meaningful debate. And that is what we must address. That is, I think, the number one challenge. And I think everybody here, most of you have participated, some of you are overseas and so forth. I think I have known many Zimbabweans in the diaspora who have escaped the poverty in Zimbabwe and are no longer interested. The fact that you are still passionate about finding a solution to Zimbabwe's economic and political problems is something to be commended. I would like to emphasize that we are going to keep this same link on Saturdays and Sundays to discuss issues on Zimbabwe. Whenever you can join us, you're most welcome. But again, thank you very much for participating, and I appreciate you making the effort. Good night.